Welcome back to the Three Benchwarmers podcast, where today we have a very special episode. In honor of Selection Sunday, we will be doing our own Three Benchwarmers podcast March Madness bracket, and we're gonna talk about every game in order, every single region, and go through selecting the teams that we think are gonna win, and we're gonna vote on every game and agree on a specific bracket. And maybe we'll also use this bracket as our personal bracket because three minds are better than one, so maybe it's a more reliable bracket than most. Anyways, um, yeah, whenever you guys are ready, we can start. I know Mark, you have the bracket pulled up.
Yeah, just Austin, start in the East. I mean, we'll go down from one seed all the way down to, the two matchup at that point. But I think we can all comfortably agree Duke wins this game. I mean, I don't know if there's
Yeah,
any debate there.
yep.
Oh, instantly, that's a win.
Now, this is the first bit of debate, in my opinion, is Ohio State TCU. If you look at TCU, they actually have a win against Florida
Cameron's
earlier in the
classic.
year. So I don't know. Ohio State's been looking much better later down the stretch, and I don't know much about TCU. So any bit of knowledge here would
Yeah, I mean they
be
have David Punch, who's pretty good, but I really do think Bruce Thornton will be get it done. I would vote Ohio State, at least for
Yeah,
me.
Bruce Thorin, Evan Mobley. They just have too many good shooters that can, take guys on off the dribble by themselves. TCU obviously had some good wins to start off the season and midway through the season, but also you saw that one game that went to overtime against Michigan. But I just think based on recent form and just talent, Ohio State takes this one.
I agree. If they're healthy, Ohio State could take this, and that's my analysis there. They look good against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. So,
All right.
next game, St. John's versus Northern Iowa. I think St. John's is underseeded as a 5 seed, honestly, and they should make quick work of Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I think we all agree.
I agree. I don't think Northern Iowa is a 6 seed in their own conference and won the title. So as of now, they have not been picked very much, and they're 12-point dogs. So I don't think they do it at
Their
all.
only notable result I'm seeing here is that they lost to St. Mary's by only, what is that, 5 points? But
St. Mary's is
I don't know.
overrated as well. I think the
Yeah,
double
they're a
Yeah,
season
seven
we'll
is,
seed.
we'll, we'll get there.
yeah.
But St. John's wins that. And then another game where I think there is an obvious favorite. Obviously, Kansas is the favorite, and I don't know much about uh, what is that? California Baptist,
Yeah, Cal Baptist.
Yeah, I don't know.
who lost by 30 to BYU earlier in the year. I really do think that whether Darren Peterson plays or not, Kansas goes through in this round in this matchup.
Hey, I mean, to be fair to Darren Peterson, he played over 30 minutes the last 5 games, so I think he's actually starting to step it up. But I don't think they lose even if he has a stinker, to be honest.
He doesn't even
I don't know anything
play.
about California Baptist besides they barely beat whatever the Utah team today. So.
Utah Valley.
Yeah, I'll pick them and go through. I think a really interesting matchup here is Louisville versus South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the notable games here, you see a lot of losses from Louisville. Their most notable win is NC State as of recent, and they made it in as the last four in. You go to USF, you know, they're able to stay in a game against Alabama. I mean, granted, they did lose to VCU, but I don't know. I really do think that there's a lot of upsets that happen in March, and if you had to pick one, this is South Florida's
This is
to
yeah.
win.
This is my first upset of the tournament, at least in the order that we're doing it. South Florida coming from a conference that has kind of done pretty well in tournaments recently. Memphis, FAU, teams like that have been overperforming what they were projected to do. So I think they're going to continue the tradition. And obviously, South Florida haven't lost since January. So if I'm correct with that statement, so or at least very early February. So yeah, I think this is actually one of the easier upsets in my opinion. I mean, obviously Louisville is a good team; they can beat anybody, even in the ACC besides like Duke. But yeah, no, South Florida for
Yeah,
this one.
yeah. I just think Louisville has the talent to beat a lot of teams, but they don't show it whatsoever. I mean, they beat Indiana and Kentucky, and that's really it.
Yep.
Lost to Duke and everybody else, but I
And
mean Ryan
Virginia.
Cunningham and Mikael Brown can take them far. But from what I've seen so far, scouring the internet, I do like South Florida potentially.
I do think this is more of a coin flip than we're giving it out to be because I know the three of us just said South Florida, and I think Louisville, coming out of the AAC, that they could be, it's a tougher conference than where do they play in the American?
Yeah, the AAC, and then Louisville playing the ACC. So
ACC, right? Sorry, a lot of A's, a lot of C's, but I do think South Florida gets it done there. Another game, interesting one, Michigan State, North Dakota State. I'm just gonna do us all a favor. We've all watched Michigan State a good amount this year. I think bare minimum they have the talent to get it done against North Dakota State.
yeah, and I mean North Dakota State isn't a bad team. I think 14's quite low for them as a seed, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't see them getting upset in the first round this year.
I see Michigan State. Even the simulation's 97-3, so it's sort of over, like, a little bit off. Dakota State does do things while the MSU does well, so I think it'll be more of a tough game, but I do think they win.
ESPN gives MSU a 95% chance to win this one.
As they should.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think Kohler and Cooper will have a good time in that game. So I'll just leave it at that. I think Michigan State advances comfortably in that game. And we're going to the team that beat them in UCLA versus UCF. Now, if Bilodeau and Dent are healthy, UCLA gets through this no problem, in my opinion. UCF played Oakland and they barely won that game. That's my analysis on UCF. But if they're injured, anything could happen. We saw that against Purdue. Even, Dent went out, Bilodeau was out, and they still kept it close against Purdue. I mean, I really like UCLA, what they've been doing late in the season. I know we just crapped on Mick Cronin earlier in the year, but
Yeah, they definitely
um,
improved. I don't know. Maybe his weird tactics of insulting his own players is starting to finally work, and we were wrong from the beginning. But yeah, no, I see. Again, it really depends on Donovan Dent. I think more so than Bilodeau because they didn't play with Bilodeau and they beat Michigan State. So we'll see, I guess, what their
Yeah,
statuses come out to be.
I think UCLA definitely has the talent to be in the top of the Big Ten, and it's starting to come to form a little bit at the end of the season. But I mean, UCF does have wins against Kansas, Texas Tech, and BYU, so they're not pushovers. And I think UCLA has gotten a lot of recency bias with their performance, reasonably, and reasonably so.
well,
But
they're getting hot
I,
at the
I
right time.
yeah, they're like fifth on Torvik the last month of the season, so I can't hate. But I do think if Donovan Dent comes back, which he's supposed to, they should be able to win. I don't know by a lot, but I think they win.
I think Donovan Dent, didn't he put up the first triple double in Big Ten tournament history or something like that?
Yeah, then he got hurt and played 10 minutes against Purdue, so hopefully he's back.
Yeah. If he's
I mean,
back, I don't. UCL wins this.
he had 77 assists to 4 turnovers the last 5 games or 6 games of the
Unbelievable.
season.
He's good. I knew he was good last year at New Mexico, and then he came here. He got the big money move, and now late in the year he's finally showing it. Didn't do it against MSU or Michigan earlier, but there we are.
Got the
And then
check clear.
check it. And then UConn versus Furman for the last first round matchup in this division.
I
Pretty
think we
easy.
can move to Duke Ohio State. You don't have to even talk about that one. UConn wins.
We don't even have to, yeah, no, I'll just pick
Yeah.
Ohio.
I mean, Furman's won 12 straight, but I don't think they do it.
No
So
chance.
All right, let me just preview Furman. Their best win or loss, I guess, is 20. What is that? 26 points to High Point. Yeah, no. All right. Yeah, all right. That's
it's
over.
over.
If it pleases the court, I already picked Duke over Ohio State.
Yep.
I think so. I think Ohio State could have the potential to play them close, but they're not winning. Especially if
Yeah.
Pat and Ngungba and if maybe even Foster. I don't think he'll be back the first weekend, but Ngungba will, which will really help. I don't know.
Now here's this is probably my most interesting matchup in all of my brackets I've gotten here. St. John's, Kansas, and in my brackets, I've picked St. John's.
I
They've
agree.
gotten hot recently. Kansas has been up and down this whole year. Granted, they probably have the best player in all of college basketball.
Is
But
he? I don't know. I don't know if that's a fair statement, Mark. If he doesn't even want to
I don't
play,
know.
so
All of the
Thursday Cubs
coaches
be
and
pretty good,
people
bro.
around him have said it. So, Austin, I want to hear what you think about this one.
I mean, St. John's is on an absolute heater. even if it's in the Big East. And they lost to UConn by 30 and then won the other 19 games somehow, including UConn twice. But I don't know. Kansas just seems a little bit too volatile for my liking. They either can beat anybody or lose to some random team who's like a 10 seed. I like Rick Pitino. I mean, Pitino against Bill Self is about as good as it gets, but
Hall of Fame matchup.
Yeah.
I think
I
Pitino, I would pick St.
I think I
John's
got
as is.
Patino. But it's not like any of us would be surprised if Kansas won this game. It's just from what we've seen thus far, it's that St. John's has been more consistent and that they have the tools to get it done.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to South Florida, Michigan State. You know, this is one that also is troublesome. If you look, I'm looking at just the stats that ESPN gives me. It says that Michigan State would be an 81% favorite to win this. And honestly, I think in Michigan State defense could get it done.
I don't know. This is a game where I think Michigan State wins. Like that's what I would put in my bracket. But South Florida, Michigan State, there's just a vibe around that team that makes me want to think that they're going to be upset. Uh, like earlier on, it's just the way they finished the season. They've obviously their defense has dropped significantly in like Ken Palm ratings and every single metric, and their offense has improved a little, but not too much. So it's like one of those things where you have a gut feeling. That could also be me as a Michigan fan, trying to find any way to salvage what I just witnessed a couple hours earlier with Purdue, Michigan. But yeah, I take Michigan State this game, but just it's a match that Michigan State should be on upset alert here.
I think Michigan State handles business. I think I'd be more worried about them playing Louisville based on how their
That's what I was
defense has
just
been.
about to say. I
Louisville has
mean,
guards that can fill the hoop, but I don't know much about South Florida. Everybody's been crazy about them over the last like hour and a half, so I'd probably have to watch more film if that matchup actually happened. But based on what people are picking, it's about 90 to 10% MSU moving on. But at least I would pick MSU. But
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, we've all settled on MSU there, and then UCLA, UConn. Um, you know, solo balling them. I think they're just doing good things. I mean, but they can also go from beating St. John's by 30 to then losing to them by 20.
Yep. I
Um,
have UCLA. I have UCLA
that's not a
upsetting
crazy pick.
they're
It depends,
again
honestly, it depends on the health of UCLA.
exactly.
Because if UCLA looks that good again in the Big Ten tournament, they could have beat Purdue. They honestly had every chance in that game to beat Purdue. And UConn, they bowed out to St. John's, which isn't awful, but they do have wins against Florida, Kansas, Arizona. No, I lied. They lost to Arizona, BYU, and Illinois. So, you know, not awful.
Yep.
I
Um,
don't know.
I guess
I,
I'll
uh,
vote for UCLA to beat UConn. That's my vote.
I oh God, Mark, do you have your vote?
I want to say UCLA could win this game.
Was that your
That's
final
that.
vote?
That's my vote.
Okay.
Actually, that's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Personally, I would lean UConn, but I think UCLA has a very good case for winning the game,
All right. So 2-1.
so
I
that's
think
fine.
I think we take UCLA here.
But just over the last 4 years, the only two seed to lose to a seven seed was St. John's last year against Kentucky. So I mean Arkansas, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's because they had a Hall of Fame coach there.
Like UCLA is like a team with a lot of talent, just like Arkansas that got sucked for part of the season, so they're a
And
lot
UConn
higher.
is from the same conference as St. John's and is having a pretty similar season to St. John's, like just skill wise, losing a couple of games, and so just
It's
saying, there's a lot of
the
similarities.
more you mention it, the more similar it is to that game last year, St. John's,
Right.
Arkansas. Because Mick Cronin is in that Hall of Fame coach debate, of course.
As-
But it's, I think, a very talented team that didn't do well to begin the year and is kind of putting it together like Arkansas did last year. UCLA is doing it this year, and then Saint UConn would be the St. John's equivalent.
yeah.
Uh, but I don't know. It is Mick Cronin's first year at the program. So
It was Calipari's first year with the program last year for
yeah, and then
Arkansas.
he lost soon after. I'm gonna have to switch to UConn.
Why?
I don't trust Mick Cronin.
Fair enough.
Mick Cronin almost made the Natty, Mark. He was a half court shot away in the bubble from making the
Screw it!
Natty.
Screw it! Screw it! UCLA. Moving on.
I
We
think Duke
have
and I think Duke and St. John's can be very interesting in
Yeah,
Washington
I
D.C.
agree.
I think it can be very interesting. However, there's not none of these teams left in this part of the bracket can beat Duke, in my opinion.
I agree. But
Yeah, I think Duke it was just a crash course for Duke, but I think they beat St. John's. I don't know by how much, but
I
I think
don't
they
I don't think it'll be a lot. I think it'll definitely be maybe 10, which is, but it'll be like close and they pull away towards the
yeah,
end
I think
is
it'll
what
be
I'm thinking
close.
there.
In the last 5 minutes, they pull away. I think 15-20 is a reasonable actually. Duke is a lot better than any sort of Big East team in my opinion.
yeah,
So,
it's like 90 to 10% based on people's picks so far.
yeah,
So I think we're among the consensus with that.
yep.
I just want to put a silver lining that this is not our final bracket because, we have UCLA going this far, but if Dent doesn't play round one, if Bilodeau doesn't play round one, UCF is winning that game. So,
No,
in in
I think they pull through. I don't. They're not beating UConn, but I definitely think they might. Like we
I
saw,
think okay.
they competed against Purdue, which we saw what Purdue could do today. So I still give UCLA that win, but yeah, further and going any further, yeah, it's a
Still a
doubt,
silver lining.
right?
I mean, we're going back to that game, Michigan State UCLA. That's the crash court we've set here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Izzo would be better prepared for this one, and I want to give it to Michigan State
Yeah, I think
to
Michigan
beat
State
them.
wins this game. There's no way they lose to UCLA twice. Oh, Michigan State did lose to Michigan twice this season. That's one example, but um,
Yeah, but UCLA are nowhere near the team that Michigan is, if we're being
uh,
completely honest.
I don't know. Yeah, on their day they can be. But yeah, no, I give this to Michigan
But
State. I
when
think,
is their day?
huh?
When is their day? Mick Cronin has
Their
his
last
period,
their
and
last like
Steven
10
Jamerson
games.
gets ejected by his own coach, and
Since that game, Steven Jamerson got ejected. They've been a top 10 team in the country. So
I'm rocking.
I'm
Yeah,
rocking Michigan
this is
State,
yeah,
but I'm just
I'm rocking
saying.
Michigan State.
I think Michigan State can lose in the second round, and lose in the Sweet 16 very easily. But I don't know. Just the aura of Michigan State alone gets them through to the Elite Eight for me.
Depends who they get, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if Louisville come out or if UConn come out, it all depends.
Right.
But for now, what we have predicted is Duke, Michigan State. We saw this at the beginning of the year, and they were one of very few teams to actually, contain Cameron Boozer to an extent.
Yeah, with Carson Cooper, I don't think that's happening again. Give me Duke.
Yeah, I'm taking Duke, but I just want to give a case for Michigan State.
I just want to say last time they played in the Elite Eight in Washington D.C., we all know what happened. Zion lost, so there's always a chance, but I'll probably lean Duke, pull it out at least without. I don't think Carson Cooper puts up that performance again, and they just don't have the offense. So
It is March. Anything could happen. But yeah, that's what we have coming out of the East. We have Duke coming out of the East and Michigan State making the Elite Eight there. We will move on to the West, where Arizona heads that conference. I think we're pretty confident they can make light work of Long Island.
Yep.
yeah,
And then interesting, all the 8-9s are interesting. You have
very hard.
mid-major Utah State versus basically a blue blood in Villanova basketball wise. So I don't know. I saw Villanova get pounded by 30 in the Chrysler earlier this year, and I have little to no knowledge about Utah State. But I'm gonna pull up the results. They beat VCU who's also in the tournament by 3, and they beat San Diego State to win the conference tournament. Um, I want to go Villanova here,
I think
but
Villanova will win this game because Utah State, I think, to like around January or early February, they were, no, maybe closer to January. They were projected like a 5-6 seed at one point. And then obviously they sort of fell off. Villanova's just been consistently mid the entire season. Obviously, in a mid conference, as the Big East. So
I mean, it's only
I
yeah.
think Villanova, just based off of their, again, aura alone, win that game. That
Yeah, I
matters a lot
mean,
in March.
Utah State's played 0 top 25 opponents,
Yeah.
and Villanova's played 5, and they've lost to all 5. So it's sort of, I don't know. I mean, as of now, Utah State is the favorite, and usually 9 seeds win more than 8 seeds. But I mean, I'm fine moving Villanova on. I think Kevin Willard's a solid coach, and Utah State is just in a different conference that doesn't really compete. I mean, to be fair, they did win their first round matchup a few times, but
Yeah.
I do think Villanova wins.
ESPN is saying this is like 51-49. So honestly, you can flip a coin, but we all agree with Villanova. I agree with Villanova.
Mhm.
And now I think this is frankly the most interesting first round matchup because I really like what Wisconsin does, but everyone is so high on High Point. You know, they do the same things they do last year. Very, high scoring team, fast pace, blah blah blah, this and that. But who have they played? Is the real
Nobody.
question.
Nobody. And Wisconsin have played a lot of teams, and they've won a lot of games against these great teams.
Yeah, Wisconsin is a very high favorite.
Wisconsin has the best two guard combo in the entire country. You can argue with
I
the
can agree with that
wall.
with Boyd
They
and
have the
Blackwell.
best. Boyd and Blackwell are the best two guard combo in the entire country. And when their bigs are making their wide open shots, they can beat anybody in the country. And we've
They
seen
don't
that.
even have to.
They beat Illinois. They beat Michigan. They almost beat them twice. They beat Michigan State. They've I think beat Nebraska, or am I incorrect? They've won a
They
lot
beat
of great
Illinois.
games. They have beat Illinois. So you know what? Well, give me Wisconsin. I think they're gonna go far.
I'm definitely picking
I want to say
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin too.
I'm
I want to say
also
Wisconsin too, and the only thing I'll say is that if, as Dusty May puts it, the Lithuanian can make his shots along with who else did they have late in that game who
Road.
made like 6 straight against Michigan?
Austin Rapp.
Rap, yeah,
That's
that's
him.
good too.
They have 2 stretch bigs who can, just do what they do, and I'm sure they're bigger in
Yeah.
every way than High Point.
We're also getting Nolan Winters back, who averages like 11 and 8. So
Yeah, it's one of
Yeah,
those
give me
things where
Wisconsin for that.
if you try putting a lot of attention on Boyd and Blackwell, who are, well, before that Michigan game were averaging 30 points a game in the Big Ten tournament, um, then if you put all their attention on them, like Michigan did, they can just kick it out to their shooters, and then they'll make all their shots. So that's
That was literally their strategy. It was
that's
Boyd just goes head first, pucks it out to the perimeter, and one of these guys is there to make it. So
that's a team that can win in March. That we've seen that happen in the past. So those sort of teams.
I think this.
all right, we'll move on. Oh shoot, no, you can
I,
tell.
I think the Arkansas Hawaii game. I think Arkansas moves on.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've not watched Hawaii,
I
but
have no debate there.
Yeah.
I have no debate there. Arkansas, Darius Acuff, really good player, probably going to be a lottery pick at the minimum.
Yeah.
Hawaii making it out of the Big West over the
Mountain
UC
West,
Irvine
yeah. The
Anteaters.
Mountain West, Mark.
actually beat nobody.
But all I will say is I think Hawaii winning that tournament only shows how Utah State will lose to Villanova. If we quickly go back to that. But yeah, no, Hawaii doesn't stand a chance here.
I think Hawaii is in the Big West in basketball and Mountain West in football.
They're in the Big West.
Well, I'm looking at ESPN here, and they say Hawaii won the Big West Conference title.
Who'd they beat?
That's what I was reading off of. UC Irvine. That's what I just said.
Okay, so yeah, they are in the Big West.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure Utah State won the tournament too.
If they
Yeah,
did,
they
Yeah.
won.
they won the
Where
Mountain
did they
West.
win? They won.
They're probably both losing, to be honest.
Yeah, I
but-
think.
Yeah, they would have won the Mountain West because San Diego State is there. It doesn't matter. They're both losing.
Yeah.
And then we have BYU versus Texas or NC State.
BYU for me.
I think
just because they're BYU.
I think Devonsa's just
AJ Devonsa, yeah.
yeah. I think Devonsa's too good.
Yep, I have no
I-
qualms with that.
It would be easier, or I guess it would be a harder pick if they got like a real 11 seed instead of 2 teams that were begging for a place in this tournament. But I think BYU gets through them.
Yep.
And then we have Gonzaga versus Kennesaw State. I don't think anyone has a problem if I pick Gonzaga over Kennesaw State.
See,
All
I
right.
would if it wasn't Kennesaw State and it was like if it was North Dakota State, I might have a differing opinion, but Kennesaw State's not good enough. So yeah,
Yeah.
Gonzaga.
Miami, Missouri. Missouri was also a team begging for a spot in this tournament, and Miami has been very good defensively. They took Trey Donaldson away, so I would like Miami in this game.
Yeah, I think Miami wins. They've played bubble teams like SMU and like an NC State, and they've won those games. They beat North Carolina. They beat Louisville. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
beat yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah, I'm fine taking Miami. I
Miami
just
wins.
I'm just hazardous because I mean, Missouri lost to Illinois by 50, but they also
But
beat
they then
Florida,
also have a
Kentucky,
win against Florida and Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
and Vanderbilt, yeah, and Tennessee, who are all double single digit seeds.
Yeah,
But
hence why I don't know if I trust the SEC as much this season, but I guess that's gonna be seen in our bracket. So
I'm fine taking Miami and Malik Renew and Trey Donaldson to move on. I think they're good enough.
I'm gonna be cheering for Miami and Trey Donaldson. By the way, this tournament, I really hope they beat Purdue in that second round, which I guess we can
I think we all have Purdue over
soon. Yeah,
Queens unless someone has some absolutely like
Nope.
Matt Painter. All I will say, two words, Matt Painter. If he doesn't just try
so
to
let
feed
me
it,
let me just tell
yeah.
you let me just tell you one quick stat. Queens lost to Auburn by what is that, 41? And
Let me
Auburn
just
didn't
tell
make
you
the tournament.
something. Purdue is Purdue. No, I'm just joking around. No, Purdue wins this one. All Matt Painter should just feed the bigs like he did today, and they'll probably win every single game of the tournament. But that's not going to
I
happen
don't know how
because
far
Purdue
they'll
has special
make
teams.
it if Trey
Might go
Kaufman-Wenn's
pretty.
shoulder keeps acting up because I swear if that happens 2 minutes earlier, Michigan wins that game.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, we'll go to Arizona Villanova. I just think the one seeds this year are far too strong.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Nova has
then
no chance.
and then in a very interesting game, we have Wisconsin Arizona. These 4-5 games are just unbelievable. Like they're all like great. And honestly, I wouldn't be mad at either team for, picking either team. I'm gonna go with Arkansas based off just Calipari and Acuff, just riding the back of a Hall of Fame coach, really good player in the league. Arkansas has shown that they can do well against other higher seeded teams. Like, they beat Michigan State earlier in the year, right? And
Hmm.
just
Arkansas.
yeah. And then they
Arkansas.
also
Arkansas definitely
I'll eat my
wins too.
words. They won the SEC. I'll leave it at that.
I would take Arkansas, but I mean it's about as good of two guard matchups as you're gonna get. I mean, Acuff and Malik Thomas are like both NBA quality guards, and Boyd and Blackwell are like really good also. So I don't know. I just think Arkansas might have more physicality, but I don't. It could go either way if Wisconsin shoots 50%.
I I I will take Wisconsin's bigs that can shoot threes over Brazil any day of the week, and that's why I say
I mean, Brazil
Wisconsin
was
wins.
well, he was
Yeah.
5 for 6 from three today, I think.
I just don't think I just don't see him having the consistency against a team like Wisconsin. And I think that's where they just have better depth than Arkansas. That's why Arkansas has been inconsistent, as every other team in the SEC has been as we've seen. So give me Wisconsin. I just there's something about this Wisconsin team that just has the
I
March
really like them
vibes.
too. But I think they
Yeah,
stopped marching here, honestly.
I'm not against Arkansas picking Arkansas, but for me it's Wisconsin. But obviously you
I
guys
think I would go as far as to say as Wisconsin has a better chance of beating Arizona than Arkansas
I
does,
agree with
but
that statement very strongly. But
I
I
I,
think Wisconsin could
I
honestly make
think
it to the
Arkansas.
Elite Eight.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
I
Arizona
think we're
wins.
all really high on this Wisconsin team.
I don't know.
I agree.
all right, Arkansas,
Um,
Wisconsin here. I'm assuming Arkansas because you guys both chose
we
Arkansas.
I yeah we
Yeah.
picked
All
Arkansas.
right.
Yeah.
We'll move on to BYU Gonzaga. Now, is it enough to just say BYU has been so inconsistent this year? Like it should be an easy pick. I really do think that BYU has the talent to do it, but Gonzaga I don't know if they play in the fraudulent. They lost to Michigan by 40.
Gonzaga played one game the entire season and lost by 40. So I
They
give
beat
me
Alabama.
yeah, I don't
That's
know.
it.
That's it. That's it. And BYU is a team that played a lot but more games recently down the stretch
I mean,
against actual
I'm not
competition.
opposed to saying BYU,
I'm just
but I'm
saying
like a true 50-50.
Gonzaga has played nobody but St. Mary's, and St. Mary's has played nobody but Gonzaga for the past 2 or 3 months. So as soon as Gonzaga plays a team like BYU, they're just gonna get hit by a train with how higher of a skill level they're at compared to these teams that they're playing. I don't know. I don't see Gonzaga getting used to the skill level of BYU of a team like BYU that quickly. Maybe towards the end they try mounting a comeback, but I just see BYU running away with this one.
it's just hard because I mean BYU is Robert Wright and Debansa, but they lost Richie Saunders, and in the Big 12 they lost 8 of their last 10 games to end the season. But I mean, again, obviously Gonzaga doesn't have, their other center Huff. I don't think he'll be back. I'm not sure, but he's been out for a long time, and Ike is about all they have. So I don't. I mean, Devansa's hard to pick against because he could give you a 30-point triple double and win you the game by himself. But I I would be fine picking BYU, but I'm not
I guess we
sure.
got BYU going through.
I
I got them marching.
BYU. So
That's fine with me,
all right.
BYU's
unless Mark has
marching.
an argument to make. But
I don't have an argument. I really don't.
then BYU's fine.
This next game, though, I could have an argument. Purdue Miami.
I
Do we think Mark Painter's choking starts here, or
Oh my God, Mark, you got to really do better with these names, man. He's not the
Mark Painter?
Matt.
he's not your namesake. It's Matt Painter. Come on, man.
All right, Painter,
That's like
Matt.
you're lowering the prestige of our podcast by the minute. No. See, I think Matt Painter can commit coaching terrorism this game and still win. As for the next game or two, I don't know about that, but yeah, Purdue just has better players in every single position than Miami. Um, Trey
I'm
Donaldson
definitely a
does
good
own
team.
Purdue to some extent from last season. Like he's played them, he's gotten used to it. Besides that, what happened with the Mackey? I think there's a case to be made there, but no, Purdue's too big, too strong. They have Brandon Smith, they have Fletcher Loyer, they have shooting, they have everything they need. So give Purdue wins this one for
I
me.
think it's pretty easy pick for me to pick Purdue.
Yeah.
All right, I'll pick Purdue then.
You
I was
were
gonna
gonna
make a
argue?
Miami argument, but
Okay.
You can make an argument, but I don't know. I mean, Miami's lost to almost every good team they've played, and they play in the ACC, so
Yep.
their best wins are against other like 10, 11 seeds.
yeah, we'll take Purdue there. Arizona versus Arkansas.
Arizona's too
Like
good.
Arizona's very good. They've gotten they've gotten healthy too down the stretch. I mean, against when they played Houston or no, yeah, were they missing a few guys and they still won that game? So I do think that Arizona does do it. Makes not quick work, but at least I think they
Yeah, I don't
comfortably
know.
get through.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona's gotten to a point where their notable results only consist of wins, and their losses aren't even notable enough to be on there, even though they're like 2 points to Texas Tech and Kansas on the road. So I think they handle business against Arkansas, to be honest with you. But I've watched them a few times, but you never know. John Calipari's beaten a lot of people before.
He's also lost to a lot of people before, so
You got Arizona marching, Alex?
yeah, Arizona wins. Mark,
All right.
you know what scenario I'm talking about, right? Just curious, testing your ball knowledge here. What's the last notable John Calipari loss in the tournament?
Were you saying it's the loss to Michigan on the Jordan Poole 3? No. That was Houston. Oops. Well, they lost last year. Sorry, oh my God. Yeah, whatever.
What
I hate
game?
you guys.
What game? Can you think of?
They lost. They beat St. John's last year,
Okay,
and then
you
they
don't know.
lost.
You
I
out of
don't
all
know.
people should know. May
Oh! Oh, yes, Jack Golke and them. Sorry,
yeah.
Jack Golke and them.
I
Sorry,
think we
put him
should
to
kick
bed.
Mark out of
That's
this podcast permanently. we're doing votes here, so I vote for that. No. I just want to test some ball knowledge. Yeah, no, Arizona's just too good. Going back to what we were talking about, I just don't see Arkansas having a chance, particularly with how Arizona's played. They've basically lost 2 games in a week, like in a week, and then after that they've been perfect. So yeah, no, Arizona wins.
Yeah, that one week that Michigan was number one and then lost to Duke. So, um, we'll go to BYU Purdue.
Purdue.
I I I was gonna make the argument for Purdue. I think BYU is too inconsistent.
Yeah.
I just don't think BYU is good enough if we're being
If they
honest.
get to that point, if BYU gets to that point, they're bound to have a bad game. Because if they get to that point, that means they had 2 good games before that. So, yeah, no, Purdue is the winner here.
And then Arizona Purdue. I think we have Arizona. I don't think Purdue can do much against them. However, they did show that they could do, they could play tough teams tight. So I'm not
They
100%
can beat
sold on
tough
Arizona, but
teams, and I think Purdue can beat Arizona if they do what they did against Michigan today. But because the refs are so much more like strict in March 10 compared to the Big Ten, so they call physical defense,
I don't
which
know.
is
Big Ten tournament refs were kind of also strict on their calls as well.
not that last game. Everything was allowed. Literally, both teams
If it
were
was,
getting
if
away
it
with
was,
stuff.
if I was reffing that game, Osterkloff would have fouled out when he, I don't know,
Osterkloff
like
and TKR would have both
jumped
fouled out.
on.
TKR would have had an illegal screen every other possession with how far he stuck out his leg. No, but we can forget about that. As a Michigan fan, I want to forget about that game already. Purdue can beat Arizona if they use the same playbook that they used against Michigan. I'm just afraid that Matt Painter doesn't have the balls to do that, and he'll sell. He'll just try to overutilize Braden Smith, who has been shooting pretty poorly from the field. Yeah, no, Arizona
He
wins
was
because
averaging
of
5 points in the tournament coming into that game against Michigan. So I
from
Mark, what's your
just a coaching
decision?
standpoint alone. I think Arizona
was gonna
wins.
say Arizona.
Yeah,
I would say Arizona. I think that would actually be an interesting game to watch, sort of like Purdue Houston last year, where it could be close, but I don't think they get it done. I think Arizona moves on.
like I said,
I think the
it's
one
up to
seeds
Matt.
this
It's up
year.
to
I
Matt
think we
Painter.
said this earlier are too good. I'll move on to the South, unless the Midwest is next for you guys.
South is fine.
But South is not
South
okay.
is fine.
We have Florida versus. Doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah,
No, they're,
Florida.
they're moving
Yeah,
on, bro.
And then Clemson, Iowa. Listen, Iowa's winning this game, and I don't think it'll be that close.
I agree.
I I agree.
All right, we can go move on, I guess.
Uh,
Clemson is like Clemson started out so good, and then they've just been absolutely horrible. So they've lost like 8 games in the last month and a
It's
half.
so weird. They lost to
Iowa can.
Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, and then they beat Louisville and they beat North Carolina. So,
North Carolina.
but then also
Yeah,
North Carolina
it's.
without any of their players. So how big of a win is that really?
I don't know. We got Iowa beating them, so it
Iowa,
won't
yeah.
matter. Here's a very trendy upset I'm seeing in Vanderbilt versus McNeese. Vanderbilt, not, it's like they're not supposed to be here in terms of like prestige, but this year they've been doing all the right things. I mean, they made it to the SEC championship. Deuce Miles has been, a great guy for them. Duke, oh my God, my name knowledge is off the charts today, guys. Um, but yeah, they're getting hot at the right time.
I think I would take Vanderbilt. I mean, having seen McNeese, I was not moved in person. I don't care if whatever his name is, Amir Khan is the NIL like guy with the huge boombox on his shoulder. Walking his
Your
aura
Aura
Khan,
Khan.
it is not enough, bro. I'm sorry, Vanderbilt just whooped Florida yesterday. I don't know.
I think this
I
is one
just
of the
don't.
games where a lot of people pick McNeese to upset, but it just doesn't happen. It's just one of those games where it's just an upset that won't happen.
Think you have to stay disciplined and pick your Vanderbilt here.
Yep.
I think the next game could be interesting, but that's just my
Nebraska
opinion.
versus Troy. I think Nebraska has shown that they're not, like they've shown cracks late in the year, and that's, kind of the opposite of what you want. You kind of want to get hot now, instead of cold. And Troy, they've they've looked fine. They made it out of the Sun Belt, is it? And they have a win against Akron, who's also in the tournament. They're dancing too, but
There's no
Guys, what do you think?
arguments. Let's be honest. There's no arguments for Troy to win. There's only arguments for Nebraska to lose. And when that's the case, the smart option is always to go Nebraska win here. Uh, however, I see a scenario play out where Nebraska ends the season, which they started 20-0 without an NCAA tournament win in their program's history and continuing that streak. So
They're
say what you
the
want.
Royals. Mark, do you want to give your opinion before I start talking? Who do you think wins?
I'm just gonna say that I think for their own sake, Nebraska has to win this game, and that's what I'll leave it at.
I mean, I saw Troy take USC to where they had to shoot a crazy 3 to win the game at home. Then Troy also beat Akron, but I mean, Nebraska's just not that good, bro. I don't
I
know.
agree with that. I think they get out of this one.
Worst case, I'm taking Nebraska to lose in the next round, so why not do it now?
Oh. Do you want to
It
be
might
different?
have to favor Troy. I don't know.
Can I just pick Vanderbilt to advance against either one of these teams, like prematurely? Because
Yeah,
They
go
I
ahead.
don't think there's a chance that either of them even make that game close. But if I have to pick an upset here,
It's like 94-6 on ESPN. But
Uh,
sure is.
you know,
gotta be different to be sick.
I'm gonna stick with Nebraska because
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll pick
If it,
Nebraska.
that seems a little bit too risky, considering they could just lose the next game anyways. But
yeah,
it's fine.
It's all right.
they'll get their
We'll move
first
on
win
to their first win, their first ever
ever.
Against Troy.
last power conference team to get a win in March.
Yep. Has to happen at some point.
That's it's incredible. North Carolina VCU. I think North Carolina's injured beyond belief. VCU has gotten, they won against Dayton in the A10. I saw that earlier today, actually. That was on before the Big Ten Championship. And Laser Djokovic, he's gonna take them places.
No, give me. I think VCU win this one because it's an upset and we need more upsets, and that's my reasoning. So
It's also just hard because North Carolina's essentially playing at home, so playing in Greensville and Carolina. So I mean it's tough for Illinois, but I would be fine picking VCU. They might even be like maybe a point underdogs by the time the game starts.
They are 1.5 point underdogs as the game stands right now. So
Fine VCU. I don't think North Carolina has a very high ceiling without Caleb Wilson. So
yeah.
yeah, we can have VCU dancing. We have Illinois again, another team who's gotten cold down the stretch against Penn. And they just had what's his face TJ Parr put up 44 against Yale to win the championship in the Ivy League.
I mean it's Illinois against Fran McCaffrey, so that was definitely the storyline cooking. Iowa's former coach, but I personally think Illinois gets it done. I don't think Power can score that many points against two 7'1" centers,
And
regardless of how well they
even
play.
if he does, I don't think they'll win. So
I agree with that. I think the size of Illinois is far too much for Penn to handle. I think all these mid-major teams, their biggest flaw is that they don't have size, other than St. Louis, who we'll get to. But yeah, even then, whatever. I'll leave it at that. St. Mary's, Texas A&M.
St. Mary's
St.
and
Mary.
Gonzaga and any team in the WCC will honestly, with the combined, they'll only win one game this March. So give me Texas A&M. St. Mary's is overrated. Again, it's going to be a case where they've played absolutely no one besides Gonzaga for the past. For St. Mary's, actually probably played no one but Gonzaga the entire season.
They
And
played Boise State and
oh, that's
Vanderbilt.
some great competition. No, it's just gonna be a freight train hitting them because they haven't played anybody nearly as talented, nearly as good as Texas A&M, and that's saying something. So yeah, Texas A&M wins this one for me.
I'm fine taking Texas A&M. I mean, even last year we saw it. They barely beat, you know, their first round opponent and then got destroyed by Alabama. So
My
I
heart is
think
telling me that St. Mary's is the one here, but if you
Do
guys
you have
say
a
so, I'll
reason?
take Texas. Yeah, they're not the 7 seed for no reason. They have a win against Gonzaga. I mean, granted, they lost to Vanderbilt by 25 earlier in the year. But Texas A&M, if you look at their notable results, their best win is against Kentucky, who hasn't, has also been inconsistent this year. So, you know, I think you can only play your schedule. And to be fair, St. Mary's has not done a good job playing their schedule, but they do have wins against Gonzaga. So, and Santa Clara, who's in the tournament. But we
Mm.
can move on with Texas A&M
I
if
I
that's
think it's going to be inconsequential when they face Houston, but I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, I could just pick Houston over Idaho. No one opposes, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Uh, Florida versus Iowa. Now, I think this is very Michigan versus Iowa-esque. Like, the size wise, I think Florida still wins it.
Yeah.
I think Bennett Sturts can only play so much.
Florida's front court might get more rebounds than Michigan would against Iowa. Like that's literally all they do. They might not be taller, but they always have the highest rebound differential. And
Yeah.
Iowa's low key been like net merchants the whole season, and Kempom merchants. They have one good win over Nebraska at home by five
Is it
points
even
in
that good of a win?
a slugfest, and they've lost to everybody else. I just think
Yeah,
Florida's really
at their notable results, all losses except for the one win against Nebraska.
I mean, I think Iowa has played some close games, so I'll give them that. This is a game where I think they'll give Florida a run for their money, but they just won't have enough. Florida will just
Listen, they can
just
get hot from three. I'm not arguing with you
yeah,
there. I just don't think it'll be hot enough.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we can stick Florida there.
And
And
then
then Vanderbilt,
we
Nebraska.
already chose
I think
this.
we've already
Yeah, we've
picked
already
this
picked this
one
game. Yeah.
that we think Nebraska's a bit fraudulent,
Yep.
a little
and we'll
bit.
pick Vanderbilt there. This one's interesting in VCU, Illinois. I think it's hard to pick against two 7-footers.
I think it's good for Illinois to get out of the Big Ten conference play right now because they just seem to struggle. But I think VCU is a pretty easy opponent for them, to be honest.
I
Yeah.
agree. And then Houston, Texas A&M. I think Houston and Florida are on a crash course for a rematch, for being honest.
Yeah.
So, unless anyone's
I would
opposed.
definitely, I would take them over Texas A&M for sure.
Yeah.
X Texas A&M for sure. We'll go back to Florida Vanderbilt. I do think that Florida is the most vulnerable 1 seed, but I do think that Vanderbilt has shown that they could beat them earlier in the year, or literally
Really,
2 days ago.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, whenever it was, they won by like 20 some.
but I do think that they can regroup and win this game.
Yeah.
In It'll be close. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout either way, but I think Florida gets it done in March.
Yep.
And then Houston, Illinois.
I think this will be a blowout. Houston will win. Like we've seen Illinois play against similar teams, and they've just lost every single game that they played against a team like Houston. Like,
They have the same record against the top 25.
and
I just think the Big 12 is so strong,
yeah,
and Illinois is
like you saw
kind of
what
been
happened
terrible.
when Illinois played Michigan or Michigan State, which are teams that have similar sort of defensive ratings to Houston and sort of a similar like size advantage, not advantage, but just similar physical and like similar size to Houston basically is what I was trying to say. So, and they lost. So I think Houston will beat
Yeah,
this one pretty
since they
comfortably.
played MSU, since they played MSU in Breslin and lost, they haven't even beat a tournament team since then. So,
Yeah.
like they've even lost to UCLA. They just kind of don't feel like the same team anymore. I mean, I like Houston always because they play tough and they've been there and done that. Besides winning it all, but I don't know, Mark. If you have an argument, I
Didn't they
will.
win last year?
They were runners up.
Yeah.
But,
They
I mean,
lost
they
to
were
No,
close.
Florida.
I thought Florida lost last year with the
Florida
no with the
won,
whole Walter
bro.
Clayton thing.
That was literally last year, bro.
Yeah, dude, this is a very bad streak, Mark.
Yeah, and also Houston didn't play Florida this year, did they? Because I also said that it was
They
leading
played
to a
them
crash
No,
course
last
of a
year.
rematch. Yeah.
last
Anyways,
year in the final when he like literally went up into the air and traveled and lost the game. So
and then the ball slipped out of his hands. Yeah. All right. Well, now we have the national championship rematch in the Elite Eight. Florida Houston.
quite tough.
I
This
think
one is
Houston wins just
really
because
tough.
they're more consistent. Obviously, the fact that Florida can lose games by over 20 points is a bad sign, and I think that'll come back to haunt them in the tournament. And then obviously playing a team like Houston, that's very possible. So I think Houston wins this one and avenge, and they have something to play for. They have to avenge their loss from last season. So
Rick, what do you think?
I think Houston are Final Four merchants, so I think I got them there. The defense always translates in March, and Houston's always really good defensively. So
yep.
I mean, I would be like questionable Florida, but I mean they just won last year and they're right back in it, so it's hard
they're
to
just not
always.
as good shooting from three this year as they were last year.
Yeah, I mean
Missing a good
they've
star
been
player.
40% this month, but last game was a little bit worse. But I think yeah, I don't
I'll take
know. I
Houston.
think Houston's fine, I suppose.
And then to the last quadrant, we have the Midwest. I'll just take Michigan for everyone's sake there. And then
Well,
George,
no,
you think Howard
They're-
or UMBC has a chance?
they do have more of a chance than zero. But yeah, no, Michigan wins. That's all.
And then Georgia versus St. Louis. The St. Louis plot line of Robbie Avila and how they were going to win the Big East this year. Or are they in the Big East?
They're not in the Big East.
No, they're the A10. How they were going to win the A10. But they stopped. They
They've like
stopped.
recently.
They stopped having quite as much magic as they did, to begin the year.
They
But
lost by
I
like 30 to 2 to Houston. I don't know.
I think they still got this. I still think that I would pick St. Louis to beat Georgia only because, as Olex has been saying, the SEC has been kind of up and down, very inconsistent.
I say the same. I think St. Louis wins this one because they're just better in 3-point shooting wise, and they have the size. So that's what wins you games, especially against 8, 7, 8, 9 seeds. Which Georgia's obviously an 8 seed. So
Yeah, I'm fine advancing them. They just haven't played anybody good, and their form is horrible. But their potential is there. But I mean, of recent, they've really underperformed. And the only reasonable team they played was Stanford, who was sorta on the bubble, and they lost on a buzzer beater, I
Well,
think.
hold on.
So
They beat Santa Clara, who's in the tournament. They beat VCU, who's in the tournament, and they beat Dayton, who was one game away from the tournament. So it's not like
yeah, but they also lost to a crap George Mason team like a week ago by 30. So it's very up and down. Georgia's averages 90 points a game in the SEC, but we can take St. Louis. I don't think either one of them wins the next game, but
that's another debate. And Texas Tech Akron. Now, Akron is the team that took down the mighty Miami of Ohio. And I think they have a good chance in this game because JT Toppin is out.
they didn't beat Miami, Ohio.
they didn't
What?
beat Miami, Ohio again, Mark. Dude, you gotta do.
Yes,
better.
they did. They
Bro,
won the
No, they
fucking
didn't.
MAC.
They didn't.
No, they
Yeah,
didn't.
they didn't beat them.
Toledo beat Miami, Ohio.
Mark, who?
Oh my God, UMass beat them.
UMass.
Sorry.
UMass, yeah, and then Toledo beat UMass, and then Toledo lost to, yeah, like come on, man.
Sorry. They won the MAC. That's what I meant to say.
We
Sorry.
should have someone else leading the
Yeah,
convo.
I don't know, bro.
Anyways, I want to pick them over Texas Tech. They're missing JT Toppin, who was such a big part of their, entire offense. Akron has just looked like better than Miami, Ohio this entire year, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I mean they did lose head to head to be fair, but I would take Texas Tech because Christian Anderson is a really good point guard, and they've beaten good teams even without JT Toppin. But I mean Akron is definitely going to put up a fight. They're only 9-point favorites, but I don't know. I would lean Texas
I
Tech.
think this is one of the things where Texas Tech, like Akron, just runs into a wall that is Texas Tech, and you've seen this happen a lot. Or like teams that have had gauntlets of schedules, they play at a higher standard than teams from the MAC. So I think Texas Tech wins this one.
I'll advance them, but in my personal bracket, I'd have Akron winning that. I think JT Toppin
Well, you
losing
don't really
him.
have a choice. It's
I mean,
2-1,
Texas-
Mark.
I know. I advanced them.
Okay.
It's just very hard because they beat Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, BYU, and Duke. So it's just quite hard. Even if they don't have their best player, they just know how to win. I don't know.
They do have the wins to back it up, and I guess they're seated as a 5 seed in, the committee, knowing that JT Toppin is out. So, granted, they didn't give him an easy game, but you know.
Oh.
And then we'll move on to Alabama versus Hofstra.
Bama.
Hofstra has played, you know what? They beat Pittsburgh, they beat Syracuse, but I don't know how good those teams really are. And Speedy Claxton is the coach of this team, guys, so I don't know.
Bama.
I would take Bama. I mean, they have Phylon's pretty good, and Aiden Holloway, like their guards can
There's no
take them
way
pretty.
Hofstra stops Bama's offense. Like this
Yeah,
is
they're
dated
gonna
before.
score 100, bro.
Yeah, they might score 300 on their heads. So if Hofstra can
All
score
right.
more than 300 points, then pick Hofstra. But I think Alabama is the winner here.
I'm also lets up 83 a game, so it's like they just run track
Okay,
meets out
maybe
there.
let's score 200, but it won't be 300. So
Should we talk about the first four game before we pick the next game since it is
I
pretty
was going to
close?
say that it definitely depends who makes it out of the first four. I do think Tennessee has been very up and down. And Miami, Ohio, SMU is, the last two teams in the tournament. I honestly think Miami, Ohio has something to prove and they make it out of that game. But again, SMU has actually played more than just quad 3 and 4 games. And what Miami's only quad 2 win is like, or only quad 2 game is Akron away or something.
Yeah, that's
So
a good.
I would pick Miami, Ohio for that, but I don't know. Do you
SMU
guys have it?
wins. SMU wins that game because Miami Ohio is overrated. If you lose to UMass, you don't deserve to beat any team in the tournament. Um, give me SMU and then give me Tennessee.
Yeah, SMU is pretty. I mean, I don't think either team beats Tennessee, but
Yeah.
I think SMU is just choked. They were ranked for a little bit, lost to UNC, and then now they have 13 losses. So just gone straight downhill. And Miami, Ohio is Miami, Ohio. So I think Tennessee wins. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Right. Tennessee it is. I do think that Tennessee could have been a vulnerable 6 seed, but I think they got a favorable matchup against the 11 here. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that. And then we
Mark,
have what happened?
so this is your game, Mark. Take it away.
Pick Virginia. Wright State doesn't have a chance. I'm telling you right now. This isn't even out of spite. Virginia has just looked so good down the stretch, and Wright State has, they won on the horizon. Hooray! They beat Detroit Mercy. Hooray! You know who else beat Detroit Mercy in Detroit? Yeah, no. This is Virginia just puts them on a little leash and walks with them. So
Well, walks with them would mean it's a close game, but no, Virginia wins. I agree.
awesome.
Oh yeah, Virginia. It's not even a debate for me. I just think that I looked at the simulation. It's 99-1. So
Hey, there's always that
they
one
don't
out
really.
of 100. But
Yep, that's fair.
Let's go to Kentucky versus Santa Clara. I mean, Steve Nash's alma mater versus Calipari's alma mater, as we all know, and definitely didn't forget that he coached Kentucky. Um, yeah, Kentucky, they haven't been their traditional, 1 to 2 seed selves this year, but I still think they have enough talent to get it done against Santa Clara.
I disagree. I think Santa Clara is the better team. Straight up. They've they've played good enough teams to the point where they're not gonna be like St. Mary's and run into a freight train. That's the term I've been using. And Kentucky has just been inconsistent, and they're gonna like regardless of what game they play, they're gonna continue being their inconsistent selves. You've seen that the entire season, so I think Santa Clara's too good for Kentucky, and there's too much pressure on Kentucky to rise to their standards that they have been trying to reach the entire season. So everything just points to Santa Clara winning this one for me.
Mm. I mean, I like Otega Owe and Aberdeen. I mean, they have like unlimited talent on the roster. And the WCC does concern me, considering they Santa Clara went 2-3 against the top two teams. But I don't
But the
know.
difference is Gonzaga and and St. Mary's are both higher seeds, and they're expecting to win. Santa Clara knows the flaw that they have. Like they know, like you normally see higher seeds from worse conferences do worse, but the lower seeds from those conferences always do a little better than they should. So that's why like Santa Clara has played two teams that can are in the tournament and are good enough. I guess they're not great, and like I've already said, but they're good enough, and they know that they're
Alex,
really
you've swayed
close.
me. I think the argument that you made that swayed it was that Kentucky has an expectation to live up to what they could be, and they haven't done that. And I do think that Santa Clara could be the team to kick them out.
Just Santa Clara is playing without any pressure on their shoulders. Kentucky's playing on for everything on their shoulders. So, and usually the team that wins those sort of games are the team without any pressure. So,
Yeah,
Austin,
Yeah,
I'll
that's fine.
advance Santa Clara.
what do you say, Austin? Do you want to make an
Yeah,
argument?
I mean, I think there's a world where either team wins by 20 or loses by one. But I think Santa Clara, that's fine with me. I mean, I think they'll lose to Iowa State regardless. But
Yeah.
I think I'm fine with Santa Clara moving on.
I picked Iowa State if it pleases everyone, and
Yeah.
I'm moving back to Michigan St. Louis. Now, you did bring up the point that Yaxel did sustain an ankle injury.
Sprained ankle at that, but
He came back in the game. Could have been adrenaline, but honestly, I think if he plays, the size of Michigan is too much for St. Louis.
St. Louis have a good center. See, like this is I really want to just say Michigan easy go next round, next game, but I think I have to mention that Michigan has looked quite volatile these last couple of games and these last couple of weeks in general. And there is a world where St. Louis starts hot from like the three, for example, and just runs away with it, and Michigan can't come back um, because of their lack of depth now without LJ, and then obviously Yaxel having a sprained ankle. And I can speak from personal experience. Like playing on a sprained ankle isn't easy at all, even with drugs, which I'm assuming Yaxel will get all the injections that he needs, but. Still, just saying. Michigan wins this one, but I don't have a 100% confidence as a fan going into that game.
Yeah, based on the recent performances, I think I'm not as confident as I was before, but I think they'll win this game. It's another mid-major opponent in the second round. I mean, it might be close. Robbie Avila's pretty cool to watch, but I don't. And they do shoot pretty well, at least in the start of the season, which could be dangerous. They can stretch the five position, but yeah, Michigan's defense is probably good enough to stop some of that, even if their offense doesn't show up.
Give me
But
Michigan.
I'd like to know. I just saw something on ESPN that an actual Seth Greenberg, an actual analyst, has Michigan beating Michigan State in the Natty. So I would like to just wonder why some of these people have jobs. And Jay Billis has MSU losing to Arizona. So
That's
I have no words. I
the
just thought it was
MSU
important
glaze
for
will always
Michigan.
be there. It'll never disappear. I can never understand it, but yeah,
That would
Next
be
year's their year. This is not the year they win it.
every next
Next
year's
year's
their
their chance
year.
if they have one.
Now next year, the year after that, bro. Trust.
Texas Tech, Alabama. I think Alabama does cruise in this game.
Cruz, interesting.
I mean, goes by
for
Texas
the
Tech.
Texas Tech hater.
Yeah, I know.
They're missing their best player.
And
They
they've
have
been
Christian
doing fine
Anderson.
without it.
Didn't they beat like? I swear they beat one of the top two Big 12 teams without him too.
They beat Iowa State.
Iowa?
They beat Iowa State. They beat Arizona. I think was it without him? It was either that or they beat.
I mean, like pretty sure they had Toppin for Arizona, but like there's definitely a team they beat. They beat Duke with him as well, but they definitely beat a team without him. I mean,
Iowa
Alabama's
State.
defense is just so bad that I don't know if I can get behind. Their offense is also really good, but
I guess
it's just such a tough
the
game. I
one
don't.
bad thing is Texas Tech did lose their last three games. TCU, BYU, and Iowa State respectively, and Iowa State they lost by over 20 points. Um, so there is a sort of a stain on their resume, but I don't know. I think Bama is even worse. They lost to Ole Miss. They barely beat Auburn, and they lost to Georgia. Those are their last three games. So it's really I guess they won the last.
I,
Well, they had a really easy schedule. Let's just put it that way. They had a really easy schedule going into the tournament. So this is a game where I think both teams are playing at their worst versions going into the tournament. And if I do pick the worst version of Bama versus the worst version of Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech has a higher floor than Bama does because Bama relies so much on their shooting and their offense, whereas Texas Tech has that defensive ability. So I think just based off of that, Texas Tech wins.
Austin?
I'm leaning Texas Tech as well, but I'm open to an Alabama argument if you have one.
Here's the thing. I think Alabama has the cohesion that they've had from the beginning of the year. I mean, they started off, let's see who they played. They have wins against Illinois. They lost to Gonzaga in Vegas, lost to Arizona. I mean, shoot, down the stretch, they've looked bad in the SEC. But I honestly think that they could get hot against anyone. And I mean, that could also be the downfall here because, as Alex said, they rely so much on their offense. But I still like them over Texas Tech because I will be a Texas Tech hater.
I
I'll,
mean, on their like on their best day, they could definitely beat a lot of teams, but
they could win this tournament
I
on their
mean,
best day.
they had a crazy stretch where they signed that like G League player and then lost every game. So I think that was bad karma for them. But I don't know. I might still stick with Texas Tech. I'm sorry, Mark.
It's all right. There they go. Virginia, Tennessee. I'll just say Virginia.
Tennessee again. I something about the SEC makes me not want to pick any of their teams because they're so inconsistent. So give me Virginia.
I'm fine with Virginia. I like the way they played against Duke the other day. I think they
They
can
played it
definitely
close. They had
beat.
every chance to win that game. No, I agree.
And
And
Tennessee's
then
pretty trash. So
and then Iowa State versus Santa Clara.
Iowa State.
yeah, I
Yeah, I'm
agree.
just realizing now, like looking back at it, we don't have like any teams going like making upset runs. But to be fair, last year was kind of the same way.
It's going to be quite chalky.
I would have had a little more upset takes if last year didn't occur. But now with the transfer portal and stuff, I just don't believe in upsets as much anymore. Just not smart to take them. So
Michigan, Texas Tech. I do, I know you guys are gonna argue for Texas Tech, but Michigan should get through this.
yeah, I I I I think if Michigan goes through the first weekend without any troubles, I think by that second week they'll have 2 weeks of practice to readjust from what happened this week in the Big Ten tournament with how poorly they've played relative to their own standards. I mean, they made the Big Ten tournament final, so I don't think there's that much to sweat bullets for. Um, I think by this moment, if they win those first two games comfortably, Michigan will cruise on through at least Texas Tech for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to Michigan whether they lose these games or not. At least through the first couple rounds, I think they just have to take it game by game and not like beat themselves. I don't think if Texas Tech was at full strength, I still would be weary, but I don't know. I mean, Michigan should win this game, but I don't think they'll face too much. I don't know, actually. I
My
do think
biggest
Michigan.
thing is that it's either one of a Daimara or Elliot Cadeau getting into foul trouble early, and then disrupts the whole offensive flow, and then they're still able to win these games, but if they can clean that up in March, then there's not many teams that can beat them. Um, Very interesting matchup here. Virginia, Iowa State. Now, I like Virginia. They've it's my logic is when you get hot near the end of the year that you have a much better chance. And granted they lost against Duke, but they looked great. They had every chance to be there. They, earned their spot in that game. And Iowa State down the stretch, they've lost some of these games that, they could have won earlier in the year. So
I don't know. I mean, Iowa State is basically just owned by Arizona, nobody else. So I don't think. I think
well, they lost to Texas Tech and BYU down the stretch as well.
Yeah, they did beat Texas Tech though after that in the tournament. So all I will say is this is like the prime example of a Big 12 versus ACC matchup. And if you want to compare conferences, Big 12 is miles better than the ACC. So that's why I take Iowa State. I just have more trust in their team and the games that they've played in versus Virginia. Virginia basically lost all the games that required any sort of extra power to win. So I think that's why I
Yeah,
pick them.
I like watching Virginia play, but I don't think they win. This might be the actual year where Iowa State makes it to the Elite Eight for once, despite being a high seed every single season. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like Iowa State in this one. They have a like that we can get to it when they play talk about Michigan, but their 3-point shooter, he leads the country.
I mean,
And
yeah,
he had
we're
like a
we're we're just on that game right now. Well, I'll just say it's Michigan versus Iowa State there, and it's not even glazed to say that Michigan wins this game, honestly. Again, you said if they make it this far, Yaxel has shown he's healthy. He's shown he can play on that ankle. They figured out how to play without LJ Kaysen, and this isn't the game they lose, in my opinion.
I think Michigan. Looking at Michigan, the deeper they go in the tournament, the better they will be because they're
Agreed.
obviously in a place of lower confidence right now. Their team is quite banged up, either actual injuries or just tired physically from the wrath, the physicality of a Big Ten season. I mean, you've seen these last couple of games. The teams have been just like teams like Iowa, Ohio State, Wisconsin, uh, Purdue. All they do on defense against Michigan is just physically push, grab, hold, literally anything. And if the refs don't call it, which has been the case in the Big Ten for however many years, I mean, conference is the most physical conference out of anyone in the country. Then that goes to the advantage of the defense. Hence why Michigan has been performing poorly on offense. So if they get to this point and they're playing teams that aren't used to the level of physicality that Michigan has played with, I just don't see Michigan losing to a team unless it's Arizona or Duke at this point in the tournament. So I think Michigan wins.
I don't know. I'd give Iowa State some credit. I think Lipsy and Torrey are really good guard defenders. Like Torrey is probably the best in the Big 12. He could put anybody in hell, especially if Cadeau gets loose with the ball. And then they have Jefferson, who's like a triple double player, like Yaxel, just not as good defensively. And then Milan Momcilovic, who shoots threes, 60% almost. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their centers look like. I don't think they'll win, but I think we're maybe overlooking them if they get that far. I really do think the Big 12 is quite good, and they barely lost to Arizona on a buzzer beater the other day. So I don't know. I think it'd still be tough. I don't think Michigan's problems will go away necessarily by them advancing further. If they're really a problem and they can't be fixed, they'll be exposed at some point. But I think Michigan does win.
Here's all I'll say is that anyone on Michigan's starting lineup, including Namari Burnett, can get hot at any point and can take over a game. We've seen Namari get 30. We've seen Morez Johnson be the star. We've seen Yaxel be the star. We've seen Elliott be the star. We've seen Adai be the star. So
Trey
I
McKennie
think
too. We can add him to that. Roddy Gale in March. I know we saw some shades of
Roddy Galen
that.
March is him.
I
So
know we saw some shades of that at moments in games. Not today, obviously, but against Wisconsin, he played pretty decently. So
I mean, I
I'll
think
leave it.
that's true for most teams, though, at this point. Like Arizona, all five guys besides maybe Krivas could give you 20, 30 points if they wanted to.
hence why Arizona and Duke are the two teams that I think Michigan might lose to. But um, Iowa State,
Yeah. Well,
I just
I'll.
don't know. I don't think they have the level that Michigan does. Like, sure, to play 10 games, Iowa State will win 3 of them. Michigan will win 7 of them. And just based on odds, I think Michigan wins. So, any
We'll move
objections?
on to the final four then. I don't have any objections.
Yeah.
Austin made his case for Iowa State, but I'll start with Duke Houston. It's just I there's not I think Duke is just too good. If there is a team that can slow them down defensively, it is Houston, but I still think that Duke has looked far too good against everyone they've played this year, so
By this
I'll take
point, Duke
Duke.
will have all their players back, hopefully, for them, at least. So, um, given that and the fact that Duke is just number one in all the metrics and just really good. They should win. But we also saw what happened last year when that was the case. So, um, I actually don't know who to pick. I think I'll listen to you guys first, but Austin, what Austin will say. But yeah,
I mean, I definitely side with Duke. I love Houston, but last year they really shouldn't have won. I mean, Duke's team last year might be even better than this year on paper. Who knows if they played? But I just think that might not get it done. I mean, if they can beat Florida, sure they could beat Duke. And if it obviously this depends on the health status of Duke's players. Like Kingston Flemings is quite good, but this would just be a low scoring game. And Houston has a lot of experience, but at some point Duke's going to do it. And this year I really feel like they're pretty good, but I don't know if Mark has any input.
My only input is that Duke has looked unbelievable. You know, they played Michigan, they played them close. They won that game. They've played a lot of close games this year against good teams, and they're usually the one to go out on top. So I think based on that, they're a team who's, I think they're built for March. They have the one-star player to play through and a lot of supporting talent in Isaiah Evans too, who can, he showed out against MSU. Cameron Boozer, of course. Even the other Boozer brother has been, playing better as of late, but I think Duke wins this game.
yeah. Then I'll take Duke then as well.
So we have our first natty contender, and then for their challenger, we have, I think this is probably the most interesting game we've picked thus far in Arizona versus Michigan. And I honestly think, this might be where Michigan's dream season comes to an end. But again, this could be a total coin flip. I just think that I let me put this out there before you guys say anything. That it says ESPN has Michigan as a 60% chance to win this game. But I just think that Arizona has looked better in their down period. They were missing a few guys. They came back and they looked like the number one overall team again. Well, I guess number two, but because I think Duke's better. But, besides Duke, Arizona has been up there the whole year. I have them winning this game.
You like okay here. I guess I'll start with saying in my personal bracket, I have Michigan winning the Natty because I do not want as a fan to root against my own team if I'm in a bracket challenge and it means me losing money if I want to root if Michigan wins. So I have Michigan winning it all for personal reasons, but because this is a group
Professionally,
professionally because this is a group bracket that won't affect my personal well-being and emotions. I think Arizona wins because Michigan just has too many flaws and Arizona doesn't. It's like 2K when you're trying to draft players and in my NBA and there's a prospect that has a bunch of positives, right? Their upside is like LeBron, but they have a one or two glaring negatives. And there's another prospect that's like upside is like Joel Embiid, but they have zero negatives at all, and their like benchmark is pretty high. You always pick that person with zero negatives that has a higher like overall benchmark. So I think it's one of those cases where Arizona just doesn't have as many flaws as Michigan, and Michigan won't be able to expose Arizona's limited flaws compared to what Arizona will be able to do with Michigan's defensive and offensive flaws. So I think the smart pick here is Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read up about Arizona, I mean, they have a little bit of a turnover problem, but in terms of rebounding, I mean, they have the size to match up with Michigan as long as everybody stays healthy. And Braden Burries just played like a potential lottery pick, and Bradley won the Player of the Year in their conference. So I don't know. I mean, if it comes down to guards versus guards, it might be tough. But I mean, I Michigan is definitely has a chance in this game, but I don't know why my heart's just thinking Arizona for some reason. Maybe from what I've seen throughout the season, but they had a little slip up. But it's hard to pick against them. I don't know.
Well, my heart is thinking Michigan 100%, but my brain is thinking Arizona. So I think.
I will advance Arizona for the sake of not going through an ethical battle here. All I'm saying is that we're not saying Michigan will lose this game in real life. They have every opportunity, every, chance to win it. They've shown that they can win this whole tournament. Michigan have this year, but in this hypothetical, I think Arizona comes out on top. And then we'll move on to the Natty here. We have Duke, Arizona, two teams who, look like a crash course from the moment the brackets were made that these two would be here. And again, I don't know if I'm just a Duke Glazer, but I think they take care of business and finally win that Natty after however many years of failure.
This is hard, dude. This is really hard. Um, man, give me Arizona. I won't say any other word. I won't
Yeah.
explain my choice. Give me Arizona because there's no logical like you can have an argument for Duke to win this game and you can have an argument for Arizona to win this game and both are equally as credible. So I just there's no explanation to my pick. I'm just gonna say Arizona wins.
I think if both lineups are fully healthy, I don't know.
Yeah,
It really is a
see,
toss
I'm
up to
saying there's
me.
no
But
way to actually reason your way
I,
through
I
this game.
I think if people are fully healthy, there's a solid chance John Shire actually does it. But for some reason, I can't get Arizona out of my head. I don't know why. I just think they're more complete. I mean, Boozer's probably the best player on the floor, and they have good defenders. And it really, like I said, depends on injury. But I don't know. I'm gonna get flamed either way. But I think Arizona might do it, unfortunately, for Duke.
I'm not mad at the pick. I just do think Duke has looked unbelievable. Arizona's also looked unbelievable. They had their slip ups. Duke has had their slip ups. Granted, Duke's was in a rivalry game in Arizona's when they were losing their best player to injury for a few games. But I'm not mad at the bracket. My only thing is, in hindsight, what could age poorly is this UCLA one. Granted, if depends on Donovan Dent's health. But other than that, that's our final bracket.
You want
You
to
guys want to have
you want to quickly
no,
go
continue.
you want to go quickly through the bracket and just name every single pick that we have. I know later on this will be important for our outreach to viewers, especially the format because the discussions that we had just now were all sort of longer form content. I would put it that way. So make sure to watch our other podcasts if you want to see more quality discussions like we just had. But I think for the sake of the viewers, I think it's important if we sum up our
Just like a quick summary. Yeah.
yeah.
So in the East, I do think Duke takes care of
And wait,
business.
can we
Used to,
just say this is our bracket. So I think let's preface this with saying this is
that
our
this is going to be the correct bracket. Um, there will be not a single wrong pick here, and that all of you should take this as financial advice.
from all three of us as a group. Yes. No,
No, but
but
seriously, this is just our picks, our opinions. You know,
our picks, we all voted on every single game. This is the official March Madness bracket from the Three Benchwarmers podcast.
yeah. All right. Well, we'll start recapping the East then. I think Duke really does take care of business easily. We have UCLA going on a little bit of run, but again, dependent on the health of Bilodeau and Donovan Dent. Michigan State making the Elite Eight too to have that rematch with Duke. So
Yeah, maybe go through every single game. Just quickly say who we have. I think that's better.
that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we alternate? Like I go.
Well, you
Yeah,
have
screw it. Whatever. I'll just
yeah
say them.
yeah you have the bracket pulled up.
All right. Duke C and I have Duke, or we have Duke. Ohio State TCU we have OSU. St. John's Northern Iowa we have St. John's. Kansas versus California Baptist we have Kansas. Louisville South Florida we picked USF. Michigan State, North Dakota State, we have Michigan State. UCLA, UCF, we have UCLA. UConn, Furman, we took Furman. Oh, shoot, no, we didn't. We took UConn. Apologies. Duke, Ohio State, Duke walks them. St. John's, Kansas, very close game. However, we think St. John's gets it done there. South Florida, Michigan State. Tom Izzo does his thing in March, gets them through that game. UCLA UConn, dependent on the health of Donovan Dent and Tyler Bilodeau, not Tyler Bilodeau, but they get that done if they stay healthy. Duke St. John's, we have Duke winning that. Michigan State, UCLA, they win the rematch from the Big Ten tournament, and then Duke makes it out of the East.
Yep, and that's our East bracket predictions. I think again very lenient on if Bilodeau and Dent are healthy.
All right, Austin. All right, I'll just bring us through the West as well, unless one of you wants to. Do you guys have a bracket open, or is it just mine that's open?
I have it open, but let me get to the West. I'll go. All right. In the West region, we have Arizona moving on over Long Island, very over Matt, and we made a consensus to pick Villanova over Utah State because of their, lack of performance throughout the season. We picked Wisconsin because they have great potential. Arkansas over Hawaii, not really a concern. BYU over the play-in teams of Texas and NC State, who really were trying to lose their bid throughout the last couple weeks of the season. So we moved on to Benza. Gonzaga over Kennesaw State, no question. Miami, we like their roster over Missouri, who's lost a lot of SEC games throughout the season that they probably shouldn't have. And then obviously Purdue over Queens, despite their past struggles beating 15 seeds. And then we picked Arizona over Villanova, consensus. Arizona's too strong. Over some debate, we picked Arkansas over Wisconsin. We think their run ends there because of the length and size of Arkansas compared to Wisconsin. We picked BYU over Gonzaga. Alex said Gonzaga would not make a run because of the WCC. And then Purdue over Miami. They're just better at every position. Arizona over Arkansas. Once again, too strong. Not shade at Arkansas. They achieved quite well, making the Sweet 16. And then Purdue is just better than BYU. And then we picked Arizona over Purdue. Once again, they're probably just too strong. Purdue has a chance maybe if they have the right game plan, but from what we've seen in the past, they just seem to flail out against better competition. Arizona might just be too strong to not come out of the West region.
Yep.
Okay, Alex.
That's our West prediction, or yeah, that was the West. I guess I can go through the South if that's our next.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we have Florida over whatever 16 seed comes out of the first four. Iowa over Clemson. We just think Clemson are fraudulent. They haven't won any meaningful games, and Iowa has shown that they can compete with anybody. Hence why they'll be Clemson. Vanderbilt over McNeese. We feel like this is one of those games where everyone thinks it might be an upset, but it just won't happen. Then Nebraska over Troy. Although we thought Nebraska might lose themselves that game because of their history and the pressure they have on themselves, but Troy just doesn't. There's no arguments for Troy to win that game. North Carolina over VCU. We have VCU because North Carolina just is too injured, and VCU obviously has shown that they can win close games and high pressure games. Illinois over Penn, even though Penn, with their whole 40-point score, no, Illinois is just too big. Texas A&M over St. Mary's. Again, this is the I don't know why St. Mary's and Gonzaga are ranked as high as they are. The WCC has no ability whatsoever, hence why Texas A&M win. Houston over Idaho. Then Florida beats Iowa. That might be a close game, but Florida is just too good. Vanderbilt over Nebraska. Nebraska's one game run, which is infinite more wins than they've had in their entire program history in March, ends, and Vanderbilt wins. Illinois over VCU because their size. Houston over A&M. And then the Sweet 16, we have Florida beating Vanderbilt. Although they did just lose by 20, I think Florida, comes back sort of as a revenge game. They're too good, and I know they'll perform at their best in March as we saw it last season. Houston over Illinois. Again, Illinois hasn't won a meaningful game against a good team in the past month, so Houston wins that one. And then we have Houston getting revenge and beating Florida to get to the Final Four again for what feels like the 15th time in a row. So Houston wins that one.
That's our South. I'll bring us to the Midwest. Michigan just doesn't struggle against any 16 seed that comes out of there. We have St. Louis and Robbie Avila beating Georgia, even though Georgia put up a record number of wins this year for their program. We just think that St. Louis has shown flashes early in the year, and that'll take them through. Texas Tech does do their job against Akron, despite losing JT Toppin. Alabama just is too much for Hofstra to handle in that game. We have Tennessee. We have SMU coming out of that 11 game, if anyone was curious. But Tennessee beats them. Regardless, doesn't matter who comes out, they beat them. Virginia beats Wright State. Should have been Oakland, but whatever. Santa Clara beats Kentucky. Kentucky has too much pressure on them. We think Santa Clara is going to make sure that they don't that pressure gets to them. Iowa State takes care of Tennessee State. No debate there. Michigan beating St. Louis. I think if they make it past, if Yaxel looks healthy enough, that game shouldn't be that hard. Even with Yaxel out, it could still be that could be much closer. But Michigan should win regardless. Texas Tech beats Alabama because we think Texas Tech has a higher floor. Virginia beats Tennessee. Tennessee again looked up and down. Virginia's looked really good. Just lost to Duke in the final, played them close. Iowa State beats Santa Clara. No, not much debate there. Michigan beats Texas Tech. Again, if they make it this far, they figured out how to play with the LJ Kaysen injury, and Michigan should beat them. And Iowa State beats Virginia. They've just played more competition. We said Big 12 over ACC, so that was our debate there. And we have Michigan making it out of the Midwest.
And yeah, that's our Midwest. And then our Final Four ended up being Duke versus Houston and Arizona versus Michigan. And I feel like that was pretty general consensus from all three of us. And I guess I'll recap that. So we had Duke versus Houston. Although we've seen in the past Duke not being able to finish out these tournaments and lose in some crazy fashions as they have done in the past. We feel like this year Duke might be too good. They might have too many NBA level players on their team, and they edged that one out against Houston. And the other Final Four, Michigan versus Arizona. Although we are as Michigan students, as Michigan fans, we really want Michigan to win this game, and our personal brackets have Michigan winning this game. Arizona, and all of our opinions, Arizona is just too good, and they have less flaws than Michigan as a whole, as a team. As such, they have a lower floor. So if something goes wrong for Michigan, they will definitely lose. If something goes wrong for Arizona, they can still win. Hence why we have Arizona against Duke in the championship game, where we really didn't know who to pick here. There's an argument for both teams, but based off of pure feeling and the fact that Duke has John Shire at their head coach position, we've seen what John Shire does in big games towards the end of a tournament in the past. We selected Arizona to be our official three benchwarmers March Madness champions.
Yeah, thank you all for watching this special edition of the Three Bench Warmers. If you disagree with any of our takes, I'm sure you do. Leave it down below. I think we really decided to go off last year's philosophy of, transfer portals open, a lot of talent from mid majors are going to big teams. So not as many upsets as you would see in a traditional March. But yeah, make sure you follow all of the socials below. And yeah, let us know what else you'd want to see. Deuce.